Pacific Northwest and to Portland, Oregon. Portland is a clean and vibrant city with lots of greenery and sparkling rivers to enhance the surroundings. When your eye meets the horizon, there are the spectacular peaks of the Cascade Mountains adding to nature's attractions. Portland is the home of the famous Rose Festival, and it's also the home of a major road racing facility, Portland International Raceway. ESPN presents Auto Racing 85. Looming up over it all, miles away through the mists, one of nature's great attractions, Mount St. Helens, looking down upon Portland International Raceway. The IMSA GT Series race is brought to you by BF Goodrich, makers of high-performance TA radials. We make cars perform. And by Ford, who invite you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? Hi, everybody. I'm John Burchard, along with my racing driver colleague Bob Bergstrom, welcoming you to PIR, Portland International Raceway, and the 11th round of the 1985 IMSA GT Championship. The weather, quite unusual for the Pacific Northwest. You usually think of cold and rain. It's sunny and hot here today and has been for well over a month. If you've never been to Portland International Raceway, it's a road course nearly 2 miles in length, and the front straight is almost a mile long all by itself. It's a high horsepower course. And Bergie, sometimes there are surprises.
Oh, I think we're going to have a lot of surprise today, John. We have 3 cars within 1/10 of a second. We have 7 cars within 1 second. Very possibly the fastest car, due to a mechanical problem in qualifying, is way back in 9th spot. That's John Paul Jr. and Bill Adam. I think we're going to see a lot of surprises.
To underline what you said, Bergie, the top 7 cars all broke the track record in qualifying yesterday. Now let's check in with Pit Lane, our colleague there, another racing driver and automotive journalist for Motor Trend magazine, Mike Brockman.
Surprise is one thing you can count on in motor racing. This track is very hot. It's going to produce some surprises. The front row here is made up of Colbert and Bell. They're going to try to run the whole 300 kilometers by themselves. The other teams have chosen to change drivers, have a fresh driver at the end. So let's check back with me here in the pits, and I'll have the reports for you.
And we'll be back to set the starting grid after this. Raceway, where a large crowd is gathered here, and if I had my druthers, I think I ought to have either the suntan oil concession or maybe the beer concession, because it's a hot, sunny day here in Portland. Now let's check the point standings in the Camel GTP category. Al Holbert and his teammate Derek Bell way up on top, followed by Hurley Haywood by virtue of the consistent finishes of the Jaguar team. Chip Robinson, same story. And same with the Porsche 962 of Rick Knoop and Pete Halsmer. And you see the rest of the top finishers in GTP in the point standings. John Morton rounding out the top 10. Now, through the courtesy of my good friend Bob Bergstrom, let's take a tour of this exciting track here at Portland International Raceway.
Portland International Raceway, described by a lot of the competitors as 2 drag strips connected by a series of turns. Not quite exactly true. However, the 2 drag strips are connected by turns, but those turns are not insignificant. They're very early, very, very difficult. The car has to be set up right. We're going down the straightaway from a helicopter view into turn 1. Turn 1 and turn 2, you can almost throttle steer back into a tight left-hander, back into a right-hander. The cars have to handle pretty well here, and you want to pick up the throttle in this part. You're coming into the back straightaway. This is not even a turn here. The 962s, the Jaguars, everybody's flat out. Then you're along the back straight. cars are probably reaching a terminal velocity here of about 160 miles an hour. That creek on the side is almost impossible to get into. If anything happened, you'd go off to the left. You can't get to the river on the left side either. Then you come into a difficult part of the course through turn 9, back underneath the B.F. Goodrich Bridge, and back down to the start-finish line and the straightaway, which we're looking at right now. 1.91 miles in length. The average time around this track is about 1 minute. They average 114 miles an hour.
Now let's check the starting grid. Al Holbert and Derek Bell on the front row in the Lowenbrow Porsches. Bob Wallach from Strasbourg, France, in Bruce Levin's car. The Jaguar, we've got a scratch, a late scratch. Whitney Gans and Ken Madron, their Buick March out. More of the starters. John Paul Jr. and Bill Adam had a rough time in qualifying. They're starting from 9th position. Steve Millen and Ludwig Heimrath together in Jim Truman's Alba Ford. John Kalajian, then Jim Downing in the Camel Light car with a new record here at Portland. More of the starting grid. That's a new car for Don Nelson and the Siegel machine. Jeff Klein and Ira Young. John Klug brings up the rear. We're on the pace lap. Derek Bell was absent, so Al Holbert qualified both cars here at Portland this weekend. Because of the fact that both drivers were listed for both cars, he can do that, and Derek can come in and start in the second place machine without being penalized through IMSA rules. Cars scrubbing in the tires, bringing them up to operating temperature. The 16 car, that's driven by Drake Olson, owned by Rob Dyson, that too a Porsche 962. And the Mazda pace car is staying out in front, so we're not going to get a start on this lap. Yes, we are. The green flag. We got the start.
That was an interesting thing, John. I think they had a rent-a-ride driver in the pace car, and he didn't come off like he was supposed to, but the two Lowenbrow Porsches, as expected, take the lead into turn 1. Followed very closely by, that looks like Bob Wallach, the French ace, in 3rd position. Number 4, that's Derek Bell.
Derek Bell out in front and ahead of his boss.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Derek Bell leading Al Holbert into turn 1 and leading off into the tight part of the course down at the end of the straightaway. Coming into the right-hander, which is going to lead into the back straight, Derek Bell, Al Holbert, Bob Wallach. There's a good shot of Drake Olson.
Okay, now to Mike Brockman.
Looked to me like the pace car actually held Al Holbert up and gave Derek Bell the advantage on the start. It looks like he got hung up behind the pace car.
That's the way it looked to us too, Mike, because he wasn't pulling off in the place where he should have pulled off in the pace car. So Derek Bell is out in front of his team leader, Bob Wallach, in 3rd place.
There might have been a little bit of strategy involved there, John. However, that strategy went out the window because the one thing that Derek Bell will not do, if he has a chance to go to the front, he will. Very possibly Al Holbert said, I will lead, you follow me. However, that pace car might have changed everything. Now, when Derek's out front, he's going to run hard. Al Holbert's going to follow him. Those two cars have been the fastest cars all week in practice, but right behind them you have Bob Wallach, winner of the Porsche Cup, one of the best races in the world. And there's Klaus Ludwig going to the inside of the hard right turn. He's going to lead Bob Wallach into the back straight. And he
Klaus Ludwig, the German, now up to 3rd in the Ford Probe.
Takes a Ford Mustang Probe into 3rd place. Driving today with Doc Bundy, Klaus Ludwig from West Germany, one of the best sedan drivers in the world, the winner of the Le Mans 24-hour race this year. Very, very fast, very quick. Has not done extremely well in the IMSA series, not because of speed, but just because of mechanical problems. We hope things look better. There goes Al Holbert. Uh-oh, Derek Bell.
Derek Bell is slowing way down.
Something happened there. Derek slowed way down. Way down. He's off to the left side of the track.
Serious problem for Derek Bell.
That's going to change the complexion of this race. They did not expect that second Lowenbrow Porsche to have trouble at the end of the second lap. That's a bad deal. Now,
the old reliable race car, too.
John, this is tough. He's got to go all the way around this racetrack. It's 2 miles long. Whatever the problem is, he is going to eat up a lot of time. Even though this race is 97 laps, approximately 185 miles, 1 hour, 45 minutes. In fact, he's not even going to try.
No,
out of the race.
2
laps, all the way from Talladega to run Al Holbert's second car out of the race in 2 laps. There's Al Holbert leading, Klaus Ludwig right at the tail. This is a brand new car that Al Holbert built very secretly this year. Nobody knew it was being built. There's Derek Bill running back across the track. Looks like he thinks he may be able to fix the car if he can get what's needed. Now, nobody can help him. Rules do not permit anybody to help the driver fix the car. Now, Derek is a pretty good mechanic. However, looking at this, I don't think he's going to try anything. I think he's...
Doesn't seem like he is moving in an urgent way. We'll be back with more of the action at Portland right after these messages. Action in Portland. And from sights in Las Vegas to Atlantic City, the best young boxers in the business come your way when ESPN presents Top Rank Boxing live on Thursday nights. Some of the boxers who've gained fame through their appearances on ESPN Top Rank cards are world light heavyweight champion Dwight Braxton, middleweight Bobby Ches, welterweights Roger Stafford and Donald Curry, and middleweight Frank the Animal Fletcher. Catch the best combination in boxing by tuning in Thursday nights to ESPN and Top Rank Boxing.
B.F. Goodrich's car, 962 down the straightaway. These are running about 185 miles an hour down there. Now they're coming down into turn 1, gets into pretty heavy braking, and he'll downshift from 5th down into 3rd. This is the turn we're talking about in the aerials. Now he's throttle steering, not full throttle, about 3/4 throttle, and it's pretty darn easy to make one big turn. Now he's probably going to downshift into 2nd gear, come back down around this hard left-hand turn. Keeps the car to the inside. You don't want to get to the outside because you get on the marbles, you lose it into the dirt. Now he's back. This is a very critical turn here because this leads onto the back straight. You can see all the black marks on the yellow curb because of tires, and now you're on the back straight. This is the second fastest part of the course.
That's Al Holbert, the leader. He's been followed by Klaus Ludwig in the Ford Probe. Drake Olson now 3rd in Rob Dyson's number 16 Porsche. And the lead car in the Group 44 Jaguar team is currently in 4th place. That's a car co-driven by Bob Tullius and Chip Robinson.
There's Drake Olson. We saw Drake Olson run a beautiful race at Lime Rock to win his first Camel GT race. Young driver. Actually, he's not all that young, but he's somewhat new to IMSA racing. He's a very good driver. He's always been plagued with bad rides in the past, but this year he got in with Rob Dyson, and they've got this 962 working well. Drives very hard. There it is.
John Klug.
The state-of-the-art 5 years ago. John Fitzpatrick and these guys dominated IMSA racing. Right now, that state-of-the-art car qualified 22nd in this field. Gives you an idea what's happened to state-of-the-art technology. It's very, very hard to make a Porsche 935 competitive these days, even in the big tracks like Le Mans and Daytona. Even though they have high terminal velocity, they just don't handle as well as they should. It's sort of like driving a dinosaur. You know, there's a few of them around, but they're fun to drive, but they're not competitive any longer. Being followed by the Taiga, who is leading the Camel Light division.
It's a car that's co-driven by Don Nelson and Siegel. Nelson in the car at the moment. John Klug motoring around the track after a spin that no doubt upset him personally if it didn't upset the car.
This is a pretty good shot. Shows how well that little Mazda-powered Taiga runs. That car is actually built for Camel Light, weighs 1,540 pounds. The Mazda 13B motor puts out about 330 horsepower. Look how it handles. He goes right down inside the 935, gets it in close. This car probably in the turns is as fast as any car on the straight, or on the turns. Right now, coming onto the straight is where it gets into trouble.
We'll be back with more of the action at Portland International Raceway right after we pause for these messages. Feline, Group 44's Jaguar, moving down the main straight past a Camel Light car driven by Jeff Klein. This is the car co-driven by Bob Tullius and young Chip Robinson.
These cars could very possibly win this race. They can very easily go the distance with one fuel stop. They can drive them as hard as they want. They don't have to worry about conserving fuel. The Jaguar, with its normally aspirated big V12, gets a little bit better gas mileage than what the Porsche does. You see Bob Tullius behind the wheel. They're currently running in 4th place. If they can keep the pressure on, they can force the Porsches maybe to turn up the boost, force the Mustang to turn up the boost, and maybe they'll have to make 2 pit stops. If they can stay this close, that second pit stop can be the difference between a victory and a 2nd place. And you're seeing Bob Tullius. Here, watch the news. That's not so good when you have a guy running in 22nd position bump off the guy that's running in 4th spot.
Very bad form to do that.
Oh, yeah, he'd have a problem after the race explaining it, too. Group 44 Jaguars, beautifully prepared cars. 44 N4 has very good seasoned drivers. You have Brian Redmond, Hurley Haywood in one, Bob Tullius and young Chip Robinson in the other. We're watching Bob Tullius handle the Group 44 car, who started in 5th position, currently running 4th.
Shock absorbers are a very important item on any automobile, whether it's on the racetrack or on the road. A little bit earlier, my colleagues, Mike Brockman and Bob Bergstrom, looked at a new kind.
Shock absorbers. Heat kills them. Now, what Bergie's holding here looks like a standard gas-operated shock. But what makes it unique is this cylinder or accumulator. Actually, it's real simple. The gas that makes the shock work is held over here remotely from the shock body so the shock can operate consistently.
We're back with Bob Tullius pulling in front of the Camel Light leader. Bob Tullius puts a lap on the Camel Light. Remember, those two guys aren't racing each other. They're racing in their own category. Group 44 Jaguar looks pretty. Beautiful shot inside the car. Onto the long straightaway. The Jaguar V12s give up a little bit straightaway speed to the turbos. Jaguar probably is down about 8-9 miles an hour at the end of this straightaway, but the car does handle well, and it can run strong the whole race.
Bob and the guys went to Le Mans again this year for the 2nd time. They didn't finish particularly high. I think it was 12th or 13th, something like that. But they are extremely popular with the French race fans. They love to see the Jaguar cars over in France.
Well, they make noise. You know, they like that. They thought it was great when some of the big Chevy C's went over there a couple years ago. The turbos go down the straightaway and there's this sort of a whoosh. The Jaguars go down the straightaway and they hear things. And they like that. You know, a lot of noise. It must mean something.
The big cat roaring.
Yeah. Good shot of Al Holbert, the 14-962. Al Holbert built this car, as I mentioned earlier, built it from scratch, and I don't believe anybody in IMSA knew he was building that car. It was a very well-kept secret. Showed up here, qualified both cars on the front row. Only 1/100th of a mile-an-hour difference separated the two cars, both well under the track record. The one car went out on the 2nd lap, and we're now looking at the new car driven by Al Holbert, leading the race, a little bit ahead of Klaus Ludwig and the Ford Mustang Probe.
There's Al moving up on one of the BF Goodrich cars. He's already lapping fairly highly placed cars.
This is the number 9 car that he just is about to put a lap on. No, he had to follow him. Follow him through that turn, didn't he? This is coming into turn 9. We're looking in the monitor the same as the folks at home. That's car number 67, who's currently running in 9th place. That's Jim Busby out of Laguna Beach. Here's an in-camera shot. If I called it right and Jim Busby's in here, we might see Al Holbert go by on the right side. We'll have to wait and see.
Nobody in front of him at the moment. Clear track, but there's Al.
We did call it right, but, well, he's going to let him go down on the inside.
Whoa, no, he's not. Not easily, anyway.
There's a good camera shot. Here we are through turn 1, through turn 2, coming into the tight left-hand turn 3. Follow each other around. One thing you don't do, when you look in your rearview mirror and you see the race leader coming up behind you, you don't contest the turn. If he's coming up, he's going to lap you. And the one thing you don't do is hold him up this early in the race. There's no need to. It's so early in the race that all you do is become very unpopular, and the next time you might be running faster and the guy will do it to you. So the thing to do is let him go. It's different if it's at the end of the race and there's a chance of holding him up and keeping him from lapping you. But here's Klaus Ludwig coming up behind Busby. We'll see the same thing happen here. Jim's cars are very fast in the straightaway. The BF Goodrich Radial seems to have good straightaway speed. I don't know if it's rolling resistance or what, but the cars at Watkins Glen were the fastest cars in the straightaway, and they're one of the fastest here. Notice the Probe tries to get behind the rear wing of the 962. Can't quite stay there. Shows the horsepower of the 962. Seems to be able to pull away from it, doesn't it, John?
He does indeed. We're going to be back with more of the action at Portland International Raceway after we take this timeout. Just spun off the track and is now getting underway again. There doesn't appear to be any major damage, although he is going slowly at the moment.
Those cars only have a couple inches ground clearance, so it'd be surprising if he didn't do a little bit of damage underneath there, but it doesn't look like it. Looks like he's back up to speed again. We don't see any fiberglass loose.
No.
He's moving fast, so he feels confident. After a guy spins, if the car feels funny, he won't take off and drive at 170 miles an hour, that's for sure. We can tell if there's any problem. If he stays out, there's no problem. If he comes into the pit, something doesn't feel right. So we'll watch him through turn 9 and see what happens.
I believe he's lost a position thus far.
Yes, he's not coming in, so it's okay. It was just a problem, a driver problem maybe. We don't really know, but everything seems to be okay.
He's moved back to 4th place now, and the 04 Jaguar is right behind him.
Here's a very good shot coming into turn 9 on our camera car, coming onto the straightaway, down underneath the start-finish bridge.
That's Jim Busby aboard right now. Rick Knoop standing by. There he is, getting ready to make the driver change. I noticed some oil streaking the windshield on our camera car, so somebody is dropping something out there. That makes it tougher for the drivers to see, as well as for our camera to look out.
This seems to be a little bit early to get ready for a driver change, but I believe what's happening is it's not the halfway point, so they're having to come in for fuel or getting ready to. One thing the drivers want to make sure is that the co-driver is ready. Nothing more aggravating to have the guy come in ready to get out of the car and look over and see your co-driver putting his helmet on and putting his gloves on, not ready to go. Very
that
good
happened
shot.
once earlier in the year with the Holbert Bell team, and it was very uncharacteristic of the Holbert team to have that happen.
Yes, yes. In fact, I think that cost him a race, didn't it?
I think so.
Very good shot from inside the camera car. There's the same car from outside down into turn 9. You look down into the cockpit of the 962. The driver's helmet's very, very close to the roof. When you first get in them for the first time and shut that door, you think, I don't think I like this. But after you're in there for a while, it feels pretty good. The 962 is a beautiful handling car, and compared to some of the other cars in the series, the drivers like them. They say it just feels good. See the fire coming out of the exhaust. As we mentioned earlier, that's just unburned fuel coming out of the exhaust. It's no problem. You can tell when the guy lifts in front of you. It's fun sometimes to see when a guy lifts and he tells you he isn't. I never lift in this turn. Well, what's making that fire come out?
Earlier, we had an opportunity to speak with the B.F. Goodrich engineers about tire construction and their approach to the job.
As in any engineering situation, compromises are always necessary. In terms of tires, those compromises lead us in one of two directions. We can either have excellent wear or excellent handling. Obviously, in a racing situation, we wish to make those compromises towards the handling end of the spectrum and just have enough wear so that the tire can last during the race. On the street, we wish to also have as good a handling as possible, but we also need to make the tire wear as long as possible, too. The industry has a technology to make a 100,000-mile tire for wear, but the handling would be absolutely terrible. On the other hand, we could make a street tire that would perform just about as well as a race tire, but it would not last long enough to satisfy the customer's needs.
That's the B.F. Goodrich team. Rick Knoop looks like he's getting ready to get in the car. Notice the tire on the wall with the RR stands for right rear, and R2 means it's the second tire to go on. In other words, not the race tire, not the one they start the race with. Looks like car 67 coming around, coming into the pits. B.F. Goodrich, this is our camera car, I believe. Jim Busby brings the car down. By this time, he's got the driver's seat belt off. He's ready to get out. Crew chief motioning him forward. Stop. He can hold on to the fire bottle.
Off come the tires.
Busby out. Knoop in.
In goes the fuel. Busby helping Rick, getting into driver's position. Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. The next edition comes your way at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 Pacific, and there's a late night edition too. You're never more than minutes away from the latest sports news with ESPN's Sports Center. And our leader from Warrington, Pennsylvania, the Camel GT points leader, Al Holbert, in the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche 962. This one built in Pennsylvania, as we said, and he is out in front, his accustomed place in the 1985 season. Berge, you detect anything wrong with the Porsche at this point?
Oh, absolutely not, John. In fact, he's turning laps about 105. That's 5 seconds slower than what he qualified. He's holding a consistent margin of 15 seconds over the Group 44 car, who in turn is holding a margin of 5 seconds over Drake Olson in the number 16 962. I would say right now that Al Holbert, all he wants to do is maintain this 15 seconds. We've been watching him in the last couple laps. He's being very careful passing. He's not taking any chances. He's giving everybody plenty of room. He's making sure that people see him. He's not being aggressive. He's just driving real smart, because there's no reason to go out and break the car or do something dumb right now. And Al Holbert is doing what he's famous for, driving a very meticulous, very well-programmed race.
We're looking at the Camel Light Band 93, the Kelly and Don Marsh car, and Ron Polly, the Rusty Jones sponsored machine. Very smooth. It's nicely turned out.
Mazda Argo. That was a car that was built for a little bit bigger motor. They put the Mazda 13B motor in, and they're running in Camel Light, running a very strong second place. Pretty cars. As we talked earlier, John, these cars handle in the turns and probably have a cornering speed just as good as the big cars. They don't have the torque coming off the turns. They don't have the power for the straightaway speed, but right through that area right there, they're as fast as the big cars.
You can see the horsepower differential as the Jaguar pulls out and just rockets away. That's the difference between 650 horsepower and what you have there in the Camel Light car.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Let's go down now to pit lane with Mike Brockman and Al Holbert's crew chief.
I've got Tom Seabolt with me. Tom, the very start of this race didn't look too good for you, but now you're looking pretty good.
Well, yeah, we are looking pretty good. We had a problem with the number 4 car at the beginning of the race. Apparently lost an engine. We're not sure until we look at it later on and see. 14 cars running real well.
Everything's right on schedule?
Seems to be. Don't like to count them before you have them, though.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
All right, you're welcome.
That's the watchword in auto racing. Don't count them before you have them.
Yeah, you never jump up and down till the checker comes out, right?
There have been a few occasions where crews have done that, and they have lived to regret it.
Well, Tom Seabolt is a very meticulous guy. He fits the Al Holbert team just fine, you know. Very careful, everything's right. It's very hard to see him make a mistake, and they're certainly not making a mistake today.
We'll be back with more of the action in the late stages of this Portland International Raceway event right after these messages. National Raceway in Portland, Oregon, as we're closing in on the final moments of the 11th round of the 1985 IMSA GT Championship Series. Some young people enjoying the race as we look in on our leader, Al Holbert, in the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche. 4 laps remaining, and he continues on his pristine way. I don't think he's put a wheel wrong all day long, has he, Berge?
Oh, he's run a great race. Al Holbert is continuing to hold a 15-second lead. We saw a beautiful crowd, a beautiful day, and for Al Holbert, it's been a beautiful race. 15 seconds over young Chip Robinson in Group 44, and everything is going this man's way on the beautiful Lowenbrow 962 Porsche. Built the last year in Al Holbert's Warrington, Pennsylvania shop. Built in America, Porsche power, driven by Al Holbert, leading the race in this beautiful Sunday of Portland, Oregon.
Behind Chip Robinson's second place car is Drake Olson in another Porsche 962. And then comes the second Jaguar, driven by the veteran Brian Redmond. So those are your top 4 people at the moment. But Al Holbert doesn't look to be threatened in his final stage of this event. Overview of how it's gone today?
Well, I think what happened when we saw Derek Bell at the start take off and lead, that was the only thing that was a little bit wrong. The pace car held up Al Holbert, and Derek took off and led. Then the second problem, and the only one they've had all day, is something went amiss in Derek's car, and he was forced out of the race, and we've seen Al Holbert lead it from then on. I don't think he's had the lead contested. I don't think anybody's pressed him hard. He's run very consistent laps in the later stage of the race. He's running 104s, holding a 15-second lead handily over the second-place car, Group 44, driven by Chip Robinson.
One of the most interesting things to me in the course of this race is the fact that the John Paul Bill Adam Buick March started 9th, has never been higher, I think, than maybe 7th, and is currently running in 10th. Now, maybe they're just running to get a finish under their belts because they've had so many problems all year long that maybe just to finish would be a great advantage for them.
Well, I doubt that's the case. That's not the type of a race that John Paul Jr. or Bill Adam would run. They had a problem earlier on, and I think they're just trying to get the finish now, but not because they were planning on it this way. Right now, we're looking at Al Holbert, who is driving, actually, I might say cruising. When he's turning laps at 105, he's not having to race too hard. And Chip Robinson behind him, press as hard as he may, is not going to be able to close the gap significantly between here and the finish.
There was an opportunity for a driver change with the leading team if Holbert had needed it, because when Derek Bell dropped out on the second lap, obviously that made him available to drive should Holbert need relief. But even in this hot weather, Al apparently has felt cool enough, unflustered enough, so he could cruise on without taking that relief.
Well, he's driven a lot of miles in the 962s. Even though this is a brand new car, you can rest assured it's been set up just like the old car. His cool suit's working good. They have beautiful ventilation. He's got the suspension set up the way he wants it. He calls the shots. It's very comfortable. People forget we have seen Al Holbert do the same here at Portland in the past. We've seen him run solo drives. He runs 3 hours very regularly. He is in pretty darn good shape, and there's been no problem today.
Talk about consistency. Just rechecking the qualifying figures. Al Holbert qualified the 14 car at 114.429 miles an hour. He qualified the other car, the old car, at 1/10 of a mile an hour slower. And there is the checkered flag. We have the winner. Al Holbert has cruised to victory here at Portland.
An absolutely beautiful race for Al Holbert as he wins the G.I. Joe Portland Grand Prix in his brand new American-built Porsche-powered 962.
First race for the car, first win for the team with this car. A marvelous job, the kind of job that you've come to expect from the Al Holbert team. Very unofficially at the moment, Chip Robinson would be in second place, Drake Olson third.
Good shot at the second place Jaguar V12, number 44, driven by Chip Robinson. Bob Tulia started the car, did a good job driving it into second place. Chip Robinson got in the car, held that position, did a very good job. 16th, or car number 16 was third, Drake Olson. And it looks to me like unofficially car number 4, the second Jaguar Group 44, was fourth.
So 2 Porsches, 2 Jaguars make up the top 4, winding up this Portland event. Al Holbert cruising around the last turn. There's our third place man, Drake Olson. And he is opening the door to get some cooler air into that cockpit.
Turning on the fan, notice that?
Sure.
Drake Olson ran a good race. We saw him early on in the race have a few little problems, but basically did a good job.
We'll be back to talk with the winners and have a final word after these messages. Move now to the winner's circle and Mike Brockman.
Al, you have a way of making it look easy. Is it as easy as you make it look?
No, I think, maybe I paid my dues. And, I got, like a lot of other guys probably do, I got the Lord as my co-pilot, so to speak. And it's difficult to take care of everything. And, what people can't see is a little difference if we were pushed a little harder, like if the Ford had stayed those 3-4 seconds behind, it would have made a world of difference because I could back off after that. And who knows what happens then.
Did you have any idea about your teammate, Derek Bell? Did you know what had happened to him during the race?
No, but I didn't want to ask because I had a feeling the way it quit so quickly. It was either a drive axle, because he'd never stopped that abruptly in front of me, or an engine. And you know, it's first. Well, we had engine failure here last year, but the only 2 times we've ever had engine failure, and I really feel bad for Derek because, you know,
It's a tough weekend for him.
yeah, he's been trotting around the country and working hard, and thought we could give him the best car possible, and we had decided before the race, believe it or not, we were going to race for it.
Okay, Al, thank you very much.
Our congratulations to Al Holbert on another mighty impressive drive.
Nobody pressured Al. Everything ran smooth. He drove it the way he wanted and won.
One other notable development, Bob Wallach never did materialize as a real threat, despite the fact that he qualified 3rd. Berge, your assessment of the day here at